welcome into the Week 8 High School Football Podcast covering prep football here on JacksonSun.com. I am Jackson Sun High School Sports columnist Brandon Shields here with Jackson Sun sports writer Michael Odom, talking about rural West Tennessee high school football. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. There's a lot of stuff to be for us to kind of go over in the next 15 minutes, so we'll just kind of jump into it. The biggest thing kind of coming out of last week is just the number of upsets that happened, and I guess victories by teams that we didn't expect victories to happen last week. Just kind of what was the most surprising one out of the group for you?
For me, it would have to be that Scottsdale-Riverside score, especially with Scottsdale going up and then the Riverside coming back. I mean, that's a big rivalry game. I don't understand how Scottsdale wasn't able to stay up and fight through that, any adversity in the second half to win that one. Mm-hmm. When those two get together, it's always a fight, but you've got to be able to continue to fight for the entire game.
Yeah, I kind of even admitted this on the radio show Monday night that I guess about halftime at the game that I was at Friday night between Hardin County and Haywood, I saw Scottsdale up 21-0. I was like, okay, it's going about like I thought, and I never saw another score after that. And so then about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night, I'm opening up the email with the Scottsdale Riverside stats and forwarding them on to our people in the office taking scores. And I have to text Scottsdale stat keeper, like, is this score correct? And she said, yeah, that really happened. So, needless to say, that was a pretty surprising for me as well. But I'll go with the TCA McKenzie game. I don't know what's going on with McKenzie football right now, but they are on a 4-game losing streak, and I think they should have won at least 3 of those games, and the one that they shouldn't have won, they came closest to winning. So it looks like, just kind of on the outside looking in, that there's something going on with that team, or maybe somebody isn't living up to expectations in a certain area of that program right now. But there are definitely things that McKenzie's going to have to work on and correct really quickly as region play continues. Luckily, I think they have this week off. Yes, they have the bye week this week to kind of work on things, and then they got 3 games to come back with after that. Speaking of TCA, though, they've lost Adamsville. They've beaten McKenzie. They have a win over Halls. That means they have 2 remaining games left in region play: Gibson County, Jackson Christian. Can TCA go ahead and start making preparations, ordering extra concession stand stuff, and because they don't have a home game anymore the rest of the regular season? Like this past Friday was senior night,
right,
on September 30th. Can they go ahead and start making preparations for a home game on the first week of November?
I mean, first I think you have to look at that Jackson Christian game, and that is a rivalry game, and one of those, we know each other, we go to church with each other, mm-hmm. So Jackson Christian's the team that's going to be hungry for some wins here at the end of the season. They've played a really tough early season schedule with DCA and Davidson Academy. They were able to get the win over Halls, and if they can build any momentum, isn't that a Week 11 game, I believe?
Yes, it is.
I mean, that would be a big ending to the regular season if they're able to win a couple others going into that one.
Yeah. And Jackson Christian, they've already lost to Adamsville as well. They still have to play McKenzie. They still have to play Gibson County. So assuming that Jackson Christian does beat Gibson County and pulls off, I assume we still call an upset if they were to beat McKenzie, then that is for second place outright. But if McKenzie beats Jackson Christian, then Jackson Christian will be playing to kind of force a 3-way tie for second again in that region. And then at this point, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that one, because all 3 of them right now have losing records, and TCA and Jackson Christian have a chance to catch up with McKenzie as far as the total wins portion of the tiebreaker goes. Moving ahead to this week, it's about half and half of region games and non-region games on the schedule this week, but there's 2 non-region games that are particularly interesting. They didn't happen last year because most of these teams are in Region 7 3A, or 2 of the 4 teams are in Region 7 3A. So they have the opening because of JCM closing. Adamsville had a game with Lauderdale County, Alabama. Lauderdale County backed out of playing against Adamsville this year. And USJ lost the game with Rossville Christian, with Rossville Christian saying, we really don't want to play the big teams anymore. We don't care if we make the playoffs. We're not making them anyway, so we don't want to play them. So they're not playing them. So now we have USJ traveling to Milan. That's the game I'm going to be at Friday. And Dyersburg waking up early Thursday morning to hit the road for the Friday night game at Adamsville. They're going to take a bus and RVs. It's going to be great. Not really, y'all. That's a comment about how long it is from Dyersburg to Adamsville. Just kind of, you've been around. You remember the USJ Milan series when they were in the same region?
Wasn't close.
Ever?
Oh, I don't think it was ever close.
So did USJ ever beat Milan on the field? I think they got the forfeit win over them in 06.
Yeah, when Hanson, the transfer problem. I don't think so. I don't think any of them are really that close. They know each other. Jeff Morris is going to know, and I think the key to this one's going to be, can Matt Milan's pass defense stand up to USJ's pass offense?
Right. And, I wonder if we give USJ's pass offense a little too much credit. Because granted, they took that week 1 loss, and then they've been undefeated since then. But who they really beaten in that streak? Which we're about to start talking about stuff like that here in a minute. The Dyersburg-Adamsville game, I'm really looking forward to. Nobody on either side can remember, or at least I've talked to, can remember a time when Adamsville and Dyersburg played in any sport. You cover volleyball and soccer and all that. Have they played that you know of?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Brandon Gray, Adamsville's head coach, and he's a graduate of Adamsville. He said we might have played them in a baseball game in the early 90s or something. He said, but I definitely don't remember it. So that's going to be a fun matchup, just in a sense, watching rural West Tennessee sports history. It'll be Bart Stowe's first time ever to coach in Adamsville, too, in a game there. Because he's always been at, Haywood, Lexington, Dyersburg, so they've never played Adamsville in football at all. I don't know. Just kind of, these are 2 programs that have been 2 of the more successful ones in rural West Tennessee over the last 10 years. Is this going to be one where they're kind of going to be weighed against each other, or is this just they're getting together to play, try not to get hurt, go back to region play, and have a good year?
I think they're both trying not to get hurt, but I think they both want to try and improve and get better in this game. Talking to Tristan Coleman this week for another story, he talked about how, sickness has really gone through the Adamsville team here recently. They've got a couple with the flu, and, he didn't play as much against Jackson Christian because he was sick. So I'm sure Brandon Gray's wanting to stay healthy, and, but you also want to try and improve. Dyersburg's going to bring some very good running backs to this game, and that's something that Adamsville might have to face, if they can reach the quarterfinals, semifinals, final of the state tournament.
Right. We call it playoffs in football. Anyways. Speaking of the USJ Milan game.
Got to be different.
Well, yeah. 6 classes. Duh. Well,
9.
9 next year, if you count Division II. Speaking of the USJ Milan game, this one's going to get hyped across the state because on one side you got Trey Smith, the talented and heralded lineman from USJ. Then you got the Duke commit on Milan's side, Jacob Rimmer. They're both known for playing on the offensive line, but Trey does play a little bit on defensive line, so we may get to see them go against each other when Milan's on offense. But all that being said, are people focusing too much on the 2 guys when there are 20 other people on the field?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, because they're both very good. They're both, good in their own rights. And obviously, if they've signed, Power 5 D1 scholarships, and they're going to be a big part of, creating holes. And if USJ is going to have success, Trey's going to have to open some holes for those running backs because Milan's going to have a definite size advantage.
Definitely.
Other than Trey. So I think they are going to play a very vital role in this game.
Oh, yeah, they'll definitely play a vital role. I don't know, I'm just kind of looking forward. You can't overlook the coaching matchup between Rusty Bradley and Jeff Morris as well. They met up twice in 2011 and 12. Yes, 11 and 12. In the Blue Cross Bowl Class 3A state championship game when Bradley was at CAK and Milan made it the last two times. CAK getting wins in both of them. So it'll be fun to kind of see those two coaches match up against each other.
And Milan did win the three matchups, 39-15, 34-21, and 42-35.
There you go. One last question. We got about 3 minutes to kind of discuss this. When you vote for us in the state top 10 poll, is there any team, I think we've got about 6 teams that are ranked right now? Haywood in 4A, Milan and Dyersburg, or Milan and Liberty in 3A, Adamsville in 2A, and then Dresden and Huntington in 6A, or 1A. Dresden and Huntington are not 6A.
Yeah, let's put Dresden up against some 6A schools.
Is there any team in our coverage area that deserves to be ranked that isn't?
I'll tell you, one poll that's really hard to figure out is the Division II poll. Mm-hmm. And you have a team like USJ who's got a record that's as good as anybody in there, but you're having to compare USJ, Harding, and Lausanne against Brentwood Academy, Baylor, MUS. I mean, that's two different, sets of apples there. I mean, it's hard to try and... Because I don't think any of the single A teams have a chance against the double A's. I mean, even towards the bottom is like a Macaulay. I don't think USJ would have a chance to go to Macaulay or Macaulay come here and USJ beat them. Or any other Division I team. So it's very hard to try and vote in that poll and try and put the single A teams in it, whether their record is deserving or not.
Yeah. Like I said, you vote in the poll, I don't, so I don't really care. But I imagine, or at least I don't care enough to actually voice this opinion.
Well, you heard that, people. Brandon doesn't care about football.
But I imagine if I voted in it each week and I'm having to make the comparison between a Macaulay and a St. George's or something like that, I'd be like, how about we just kind of split them up into top fives and we just do it that way? But
that would be my thought, dude. My thought is top five, especially next year when we're going to be going... the 3 classifications. Let's just do D2.
3A is going to need a top 2.
Let's do top 5 for each of the 3 and move on. I don't think a top 10 is needed, but I don't think combining them into one top 10 is good either.
Yeah. Well, one thing against USJ is, it's a real question of who have they beaten that deserves, that warrants them being in the top 10. And I kind of see that. And that's kind of the same argument against my pick. There are 3 rural West Tennessee teams in the 3A top 10. Milan, Dyersburg, and Liberty. There was a 4th one a couple weeks ago in Bolivar. They lost last week, so they dropped out. All those teams have at least one loss. South Gibson hasn't lost yet. They deserve to be up there, I think. But I can also see the argument of who have they beaten. I was looking at the other day. I think the best team they've beaten has 3 wins so far. So there is a big question about who has South Gibson beaten, but they'll definitely get that chance after this week. They go to Westview, and then they've got Milan, Dyersburg, and Liberty to end the season. So, anyways, thanks for listening, y'all, and good luck to your teams in Week 8 of high school football. See ya.